All right, good morning, ladies. How are you all doing? All right, so usually I am in front of ladies and gentlemen, and I always say guys when I have a conversation. So if I slip up and say guys, understand I'm talking to ladies, okay? So it's not a sexist term, it's just I'm from Alabama, so I say guys a lot. Now, you all may think that is an odd way to start a presentation, but I speak all across the world and across the country, and I want to make sure that it's understood. All right, because there have been times where one young lady came up and says, "You didn't speak to me the entire presentation." I said, "Well, what do you mean, ma'am?" And she says, "Oh, first, don't call me ma'am. It makes me feel old." I said, "Okay, I'm sorry, lady." And so then she says, "You said guys, guys, guys." So understand that if I slip up and say guys instead of ladies, I'm still referring to you all. Can everyone understand me when I speak? Okay, the reason I ask, I speak in front of international audiences, and sometimes me being from the country of Alabama doesn't translate very well. We have a lot to cover, all right? So when I speak, if I get excited, because I love this stuff that I'm going to share today changed my life, changed my family's life, and has changed a legacy for my son, my nieces, and nephews coming after me. So if I get excited and I start speaking fast, just raise your hand. Say slow down. All right, everyone practice. Raise your hand. Everyone say slow down. All right, so this is interactive, by the way. So this is a presentation, but it's more of a conversation. Fair enough? All right, I start every single presentation or class the exact same way. Do we have any military veterans in the room? Any military veterans? Okay, any family members of active service personnel? Any family members of active service personnel? All right, the reason I start this way is we just had Memorial Day. We know those are for the service members who lost their lives. But I never want us to take for granted that we have the freedom to do what I believe is the third greatest industry in the world because of people's bravery and freedom, and courage, I'm sorry. So I am the son of a Navyman. So I understand that when a family member serves, the entire family serves. All right. So you all will hear me make some reference to my father who has passed away, but he was in the Navy. So a lot of what I learned, I gained from having access to him, his friends, and some of his higher ups. I said real estate was the third greatest industry in the world. I think the first is defending our freedoms. The second one is educating our babies, educating our kids. Do we have any educators in the room? I don't care what level it was, from elementary, volunteer, substitute, any educators in the room? Okay, when you see your service personnel, your veterans, family members or veterans, or teachers, make sure you let them know that they're awesome. Right? Because they're the ones who are helping today's leaders be molded. We're here celebrating my mom's retirement. She was an elementary school teacher and a principal. And so I asked her yesterday, I said, "Mom, are you going to miss teaching and being a principal, being in the school system up in Alabama?" She says, "Absolutely." I said, "What are you going to miss the most?" And she told me a story of a third grade kid, a third grade young man named Curtis, which happens to be my younger brother's name. And so he would say CJ. So, "Well, CJ, what's your name?" And he said, "CJ. "Well, what's your real name?" "CJ. He's in third grade. He did not know what his name was. Okay? In Alabama, he did not know what his name was. So she looked on the paper, she looked it up, sees that his name is Curtis. "Your name is Curtis. Do you know how to spell Curtis?" "No." Third grade, okay? And so then she came through and she says, "Curtis is a beautiful name. That's my son's name." And so she tells him how to spell his name. And now he'd be like, "Hi, Miss Oates, I'm Curtis," right? It's spelled C-U-R-T-I-S. She said, "That sounds a lot like my bologna," right? If some of you were, okay, all right. They get worse as we go along, all right? They get worse. So make sure you let your educators and the service personnel know. This room, this photo is indicative of you ladies in this room. I already said that it's interactive, right? Some of you are going to be like our friend right here. When I asked you to raise your hand, you raised it, but you looked around to see if everyone else was raising their hands. Don't be this guy, all right? Some of you were this one right here who is so excited that he's sitting in an interactive classroom that he can't wait to contribute, right? We know who you are. Relax. Okay. Now, hopefully none of you are like our friend here who has learned to sleep in the prone position. All right, sleeping, sitting up. Rhonda did get some coffee, so there will be coffee for you all here. And you're not allowed to have coffee. All right, I'll tell you all why in a moment. I want to give you some warnings before we begin. Can I do that? All right, the first one is be here, be present. Have you all ever heard be where your feet are? Be present. If you have a phone, I'm going to ask you to put it on silent, not even on vibrate. Here's why. We'll talk about it, but every time we are distracted, it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to regain your focus. 23 minutes, 15 seconds to regain your focus. That comes from the University of California, Irvine. They did a study. The problem with that is we are distracted and interrupted every 3 minutes of our working day. So if we're distracted every 3 minutes and it takes 23 minutes to regain focus, do you ladies see where we're going with this? Many of us go through our days never having laser focus on anything that we're doing. Very big deal. We do not have any handouts. Rhonda wanted handouts, but I am a mean guy. I said, let them write it down. All right. And the reason being is because you retain 80% more info once you write it down. So you learn from hearing, seeing, doing, and writing. All right. So that's why don't blame Rhonda, blame Neil. Plus, I'll be out of here on Saturday. You all can chase me down. It's okay. We are going to move fast. We are going to move really fast in here because what this is today, this is a 3-month class. It's a 3-month class that I took that I've compressed down into an 8-hour, I've written an 8-hour CE class for real estate that we're going to do in about an hour and a half. Okay? Everyone understand? Are you all with me? So this is what it's going to feel like, right? This is what it's going to feel like. Today, what I want you to do, take notes. If you have questions, you'll have access to Rhonda or myself after today. Ask us. We'll get some supporting information out to you, but I really want you all to have a starting point. See where you are on this big matrix that we're going to have and then how you can get better. I'm not up here just to talk. I want every one of you to walk away with something that you can implement today to be better. All right? So what are the top the top 3 traits of the world's most successful. Now, before I was talking to Ann and Audrey, and they understand why I'm here or what qualifies me to be here. I have been mentored by some of the most successful people in the world, billionaires, millionaires. Those are my mentors. So with access from my dad and networks, I mean, being intentional about who I'm working with. For the past 20 years, I've had access to some of the brightest minds, some of the most successful people in the world. And there are 3 traits that come down to it. Rhonda talked about it, her being in sales for 19 years, but she's still a learner. She's still a learner. If you want to have the first most successful trait or the most common trait between people is that they're learners. They're avid learners. Everything you can about what's important to you. And the key is what's important to you. Don't learn everything you can about the Housewives of Beverly Hills. It doesn't positively impact your lives, okay? I forgot to ask for permission. Do I have you ladies permission to challenge some of the way that you all are thinking right now? Okay, because in order to get something new, we have to do something new, but in order to do, we must first think, all right? So I'm going to challenge a lot of how we're thinking so that then we can start doing the right activities. So the first thing is to learn. The most successful people in the world are avid learners. They learn, and it never stops. The next thing is they decide. Do you all know those people who learn but never decide? So for instance, my mom, she's up here with me, and yesterday I said, Mom, where would you like to eat? And she said, I don't know. None of you ladies in here are like this, I know. I don't know. It doesn't matter. What I'm going to tell you is, Rhonda made a statement. Your name, ma'am, Suzanne? In the agent? Suzanne, okay. So she made a statement about Suzanne, said it doesn't matter where she would go, right? Because it would be the same and she would still have the same result, regardless of which company she was with, right? What I'm telling you is either your propensity to decide or not decide is going to be the same regardless of the situation. So if you ask me where I want to eat, I'm going to have an answer for you. It's not going to be, it doesn't matter. I don't know. My first answer is always Chili's, in case you all want to give gift cards, right? That's an easy thing for me, right? And so Suzanne said something, she's like, thumbs down, but guess what? And so I'm glad you did that. Here's why. Because as long as I decide, at least I've put out there what I want. If you don't tell people what you want, you are going to be at the mercy to get what they want you to have, right? So besides learning, they decide. If you are a person, if you are a lady who says it doesn't matter, if you do that with where you're going to eat or where, anything, I'm going to ask you the next time those words want to come out of your mouth, catch them and make a decision. And that's going to be the first action step. That's the first thing that you can do. And now that you're conscious of it, you're going to see how much stuff you said doesn't matter. Jim Rohn. Is everyone in here familiar with Jim Rohn? Jim, and this is one of my mentors, Jimrohn. Jim Rohn, Jimrohn. Become a student of Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn always had a saying, don't be a follower, be a student. So I don't want you to be a follower of his or mine or anyone else, but be a student. Start learning, and then you can decide what you want to do with the information. All right, so Jim Rohn always had a saying that everything matters. Right? Now, it might not matter as much as the big things in life, but everything matters. Your decision on where you eat matters because your ability to make a decision about where you eat is going to help you make a decision when it comes to something in the family, or if it comes to a marital decision or a business decision when it comes down to being moral or ethical. All right? So don't say it doesn't matter. Are we okay with that? So now that we learn and then we decide, here's what's going to separate you all from every empty seat in here. Act. Act, act, act. So we know that we all know people, not ourselves, not the person sitting next to you, who've learned a lot, who have decided, but that's about as far as they go, right? They never take action. The difference between the mediocre many and the exceptional few is taking action. We hear it all the time. Act, take action, just do it. Nike's been saying it for decades. When was the last time that you, and this is a personal time, that you decided, you learned something, you decided to do something, and you didn't act on it, right? The lack of action is, on the opposite side, regret. So everyone thinks of regret when they're on their deathbed. We always hear that. But what should you, and I don't tell people to should themselves, but what should you be doing that you are not doing right now? I believe every one of us knows something that we should be doing that we are not doing right now. And my next question is, and this is what I want you to write on your paper, why not? Why are you not doing what you should be doing? Why not? And that's one of those things that I want you to, when you're done here, take time to go back and look at your notes and say, why am I not doing what I should be doing? And if the answer is because I'll get it done tomorrow or I'll do it tomorrow, I'm going to respectfully call you all liars. Because guess what? We don't know that we'll have the rest of today. Are we okay with that idea? And the reason I say that is, October 23rd, 2013, I was on an ATV in Meridian, Mississippi. ATV flips over. I break my leg. Not a big deal, but it's a compound fracture. That means, if you're grossed out, just cover your ears. That means that the bone is sticking out of my skin, blood pumping out. My friends were in Meridian, Mississippi, in the country. They put me in the back of a Tahoe. They take me to the emergency room. It was about a 35-minute drive from where we were to the, and we were driving fast, so they say, all right? I think they were trying to let me bleed out just a little bit longer because I had made fun of them earlier in the day. So, and I'm glad they did take action to actually get me there. But here's why I'm telling you that take action is so important. I'm in the hospital the next day. They do the surgery, everything's fine, but I code. I'm done. I flatline. Right? And so I am 32 years old. No, I was 31 years old at the time. So I'm no longer here. When I came back, and then I had TIAs, lost my vision, a little bit. I came back and my son was 6 years old at the time, and I'm sitting here saying, I always told myself I was going to do this with my son tomorrow or next week, right? And so I'm here to instill the fear of death in you ladies so you don't have to go through it yourself. So take action today. Everyone knows the Joker, Heath Ledger. The reason this photo is here, who would be impacted? Who would positively be impacted if you were excellent at what you do? Who in your life would be better off if you were excellent at what you do? Would that be a spouse? Would that be yourself? Would that be family members, friends, colleagues? Would that be the homeless that you would be able to volunteer and go partner with because now you're not running around doing menial tasks? Ask that question. Who would be better off if you were excellent at what you do? This one here, I've already talked about legacy. Have you ladies thought about your legacy? Right? And we're not talking about only in real estate. So we are going to talk a lot about real estate, but real estate is such a small part, in the grand scheme, in the macro of life. All right. So who's going to be better off, and what legacy are you going to leave? So I was talking to Ann before you all got here, and I'm glad that you have a short name too. That just, you have no idea how much better that makes my life. So I was talking to Ann about legacy. So I get to, because of me being excellent in real estate, and I've had opportunities now to go into speaking and presenting across the world, my son gets to travel all across the world, right? At 11 years old. Because I've become excellent and because I've decided to be more productive with my time and my energy. So what's your legacy going to be when you're no longer here? Is everyone familiar with the idea of the iceberg? Here's what everyone sees, right? They see our success. Now, for your success to be more productive, about 10% of that is going to come from information and ideas. 10% is going to come from information and ideas. That's why you will hear people say you're one idea away from greatness, okay? You're one idea away in your business, in your life, from being a super achiever. The problem is that one idea is still going to require 90% work. We are adverse to work. I can only speak about here in the U.S. because I was born and raised here. But here in the U.S., think about our lives have become, how can I do as little as possible? And that's really why we're here as well. How can I do as little as possible and get enough to be average? All right? Right here, in order for you all to excel, 90% of it is going to be work. How many of you have ever had an idea, some type of idea of a product, and then sometimes later you saw that idea on those infomercials where as seen on TV? Right? You all know the electronic fly swatter? I had that idea, I think, when I was in 6th grade, and I told my dad about it. And my dad said, okay, make one. Because my dad was a plumber and an electrician after he got out of the Navy. He says, okay, make one. What do you need? I said, I'll let you know. Never did anything with it, right? And then I come and find out, and I'm flipping through, and the next thing I know, there's an electronic fly swatter. And I'm like, oh, that's my idea. And my dad told me then, he said, there is no such thing as a missed opportunity. If you leave it on the table, somebody else will come pick it up. All right? So that's where it comes back to ideas versus the work. If you put the work in, we're going to give you all some great ideas here on how to be better. But if you don't put that 90% work in, you're going to be exactly where you are when we started. The goal of this class is for you all to have a new life. It's not for you to just make more money. All right, fair enough? Because if we can show you, if you can learn how to make the same amount of money but have a better quality of life, would you all be interested in that? All right? If you all can do less transactions and make more money, would you be interested in that? That's all this really is. Henry Ford, there is no man living who isn't capable of doing more than he thinks he can do. All right? No matter how great we are performing right now based on someone else's perception. You all may look at me and say, oh, Neil, you're great. You're doing a great job here. I'm not doing as good as I could be doing if I really push myself. And that's the truth for all of us. Each and every one of us, and this is where it is, where we have to look introspectively. We have to look at yourself and say, am I doing everything I can? What tends to happen for us is we get comfortable when we compare ourselves. First, we compare ourselves to two people. We compare ourselves to someone far ahead of us, and then we compare ourselves to someone that's a little bit worse than us, and we'll say, yeah, I see them, but I'm doing better than them. But what we don't do is we don't look in the mirror and compare ourselves to ourselves. This is work. It's going to take work, rolling up our sleeves and actually getting things done. Don't be a Ms. Know-it-all and do it none. Do you all know any of those people? Know it all, but they do none of it? Yeah? They can tell you how to do everything, but then you look at their lives and you're like, you're worse than me at money management. How are you going to give me financial advice? Right? That's the exact same thing here. Everything that you know, everything that we've done up to this point in our lives is obsolete. All right? And the reason I say that is, how many of you remember well, I'm not going to, that would be rude of me to ask you ladies. How many of you, that's just rude of me. How many, but see, I remember this phone right here. Like, my dad was born in 1921, just so you understand how old my dad was. So he was 60 when I was born. So every phone we had in our house was a rotary phone. Made me really realize I did not want to talk to my friends that much when I had to call their phone numbers. But everything that we know right now is obsolete. And the reason being, well, let me ask, how many of you ladies in here have kids? How many of you have kids? How many of you have nieces or nephews? How many of you have grandchildren? Okay, we tend to think that our grandchildren and our kids are better and they're better equipped at, let's say, technology than we are, right? Because they grew up in it and they were born with it and they live with it. The truth is, business and just technology is changing so fast that everyone is having to relearn everything at the same rate. How many of you are unfortunately iPhone users? How many of you are iPhone users? I'm sorry. Team any Android? Am I the only? Okay. Well, you don't really count. You on the fence. You got to decide, Rhonda. You got to decide. Girl, I'm here with you. I'm here with you. All right. But thank you for the donuts and the coffee. All right. So here's why I ask, and this is a perfect example. On your iPhone, because we don't do it as much because when you're already on Android and you're perfect, you don't have to upgrade and update as much. But how many updates on your phone have you had to do in the time that you've had your phone, and they've changed something so significantly that you had to almost go back and learn the entire phone? I know that there was almost a boycott when when the iPhone didn't have the little circle button or something, right? And people are like, oh no, this is not allowed. Same thing for the Android, the Galaxy people, when our phones change a little bit. So I want you to think about that when you say, well, no, they can learn faster, but everyone's having to change and everyone's having to learn at the same time, at the same speed. You all okay with that? Anyone familiar with this photo right here? Anyone ever feel like this? All right, so this is, we are running faster, but we're doing less right now. We're running faster and we are getting less done. Can anyone identify? I know I could. Hopefully you all won't be identifying with this much longer. What are some of the things that we are finding ourselves running around the clock nonstop for? What are some of the things we're doing? And this is business, life, personal, whatever. What are some of the things that's causing us to run faster and get less things done? So could you say that louder, please? Okay, you're saying this not from experience. You're just saying you know a guy. You know a guy, right? So social media is one of the things that's causing us to run faster and get less done. What's another thing that's causing us to run faster and get less done?
Checking our emails.
Say what? Oh my gosh, I swear you wrote the chorus. Checking emails. How many of you have your email client open at all times? When I say open, when I say email client, that is whatever email service you use, Outlook, Gmail, Yahoo. Anyone still use AOL? Don't raise your hands. Don't raise your hands. Okay. Email client open, and then how many of you have alerts on your phones so that when the email comes in, it's binging you, right? That happens. So can I get off track just to tell you all how to actually, this is an action step I want you to do. The most successful people in the world understand that when we're checking email, we're being defensive, we're being reactive. All an email is someone else's request on your time to do what they want when they want you to do it. All right? Everyone understand that idea? So an email from me to you is me telling you what I want you to do it, what I want you to do and when I want you to do it. Now, we send emails, and I'll share a great way that we can send emails and how we're going to do that in a moment. But think about the email part. On my laptop that I have, or on my phone, I do not have my email where it automatically syncs every time. And then if I do on my computer, I don't have my computer open all the time. So when I do open it and I have a chair where I sit, I have one place at my home. Since how many of you work from home, right? That's good and bad, right? So the good thing is, and how many of us leave our computers open all the time? So even when we're not working, when we're supposed to be spending family time, we look over, bing, ding, dong, whatever. Oh, let me check the email. Kid, grandkid, dog, spouse is sitting there, and they're like, wait, we were just supposed to, I asked you to go to the kitchen and get me some milk, and now you're sitting down in front of your computer, right? That happens. So one of the things that the most successful, we're just talking about real estate agents, if you ask them, they are not always responding to emails. Has anyone here heard the idea of time blocking? Time blocking. All right. Now, time blocking, it works. Everything works if you implement it, right? But the issue with time blocking is that we say don't, right? Or can't. That's what it is. I can't do one thing. I can't check my emails outside of this window. I want you to write down two words, can't and don't. The first one, can't, is restrictive. Can't is restrictive. We feel like it's a limitation. No one likes to be told. Since we were kids, we have not liked to be told you can't do this, you can't do that. Don't, the way we're going to use it, is empowering, because don't means that's a word that you've chosen to use and you've empowered yourself by don't versus can't. For instance, if I come to you and you say to me, Neil, do you want to go out to happy hour tonight? If I say I can't, then you're going to say, oh, why not? What's wrong? Do you have a drinking problem? You know, that's the type deal. Can't can be negotiated with. If I say I don't drink, most people now, don't has power, can't has availability to be negotiated with. All right. So if I say I can't drink versus I don't drink, think about that. I can't go to, the club, or I don't go to clubs, is one is where it is a weakness and the other one is a strength. You ladies understand where we're coming from with that. All right, so when we're talking about emails, if you have on your phone, you know how the first warning I did was be where you are, be where your feet are? And this is a challenge. Turn the notifications on this is the best practice, turn the notifications on our phones or our mini computers, because everyone has them, turn them off, at least the audible. Now I would love for you all not to have them on, but to begin with, just turn the audible notification off. Remember I said, it takes how long for us to regain our concentration? 23 minutes, 15 seconds. How often are we interrupted? On average, every 3 minutes of our working day. And it's even greater than that with our emails. How many of your emails come in nonstop every day, right? Mine, I'm getting the same emails you all are getting, but I'm not looking at them. Okay, so that's one great thing. So what else is causing us to run? And the reason I park right there is because that's such a big deal. That's such a big part of our lives that it just hits us nonstop. And we're going to get to a part of how to build in systems and processes and procedures to protect ourselves from that. Yes, ma'am.
I know some people that if they turned off their email notifications, it would create serious anxiety.
You are correct.
I know.
So, whew. Now, so here's. So here's the thing. She says that people she know, wink, wink, right, would have anxiety issues. And that is very real. Understand that we have been conditioned by society, by our businesses, by our clients, but mostly by this right here, by our own minds. That's called the superhero complex. All right. So we love the feel of dopamine being pumped out and released into our system. And I know I'm going to take a roundabout quick way here. It's the same feeling of getting emails and being able to respond. That's the same feeling, the release of dopamine that gives us a burst when someone likes our photos or our comments on social media. It's the love drug, right? Dopamine is the same thing that the cocaine attacks, right? So cocaine has dopamine and it comes in and it pumps up, it makes us feel good. right? So now the reason we call it the superhero complex is that if someone asks me for something in my email, superhero, right? However, the issue is that I'm giving them what they want, what they need. What's happening to all of my highest priorities in the day? Many of our highest priorities are never getting addressed. So that's why the feeling of, what have you done today? I've done a lot. I'm worn out. What did you get done? And the answer is, I don't know, right? What did you do today that's going to positively impact your business and your life going forward, right? So one of the things for your friend or the people that you know with that is just do something small. And what I did, the first thing I did was being restrictive on when I'm checking my email, right? 97% of human beings, kids and up, have their cell phones within arm's reach of them 80% of the time, right? When was the last time you did not have your cell phone within arm's reach? So the great thing about technology, and one of the things that causes us to feel like this right here, is technology, our phones. So it keeps us running, but it's causing us to get less done. So inside of our phones, we have social media, we have emails, we have our son, our daughter who have access to us. All right, and that's causing us to run more frequently. What else? What else? Text messages. So the same things was supposed to help us be more productive, because we don't have to pick up the phone and call, or we don't have to put things in the mail, is actually causing us to be less productive. We're going to talk about that. The success gap. The success gap used to be knowledge. Knowledge used to be what caused the success gap. Do you all know what eliminated the knowledge being the issue with the success gap? There's one word that eliminated this space right here. This void used to be knowledge. Now it is not. Google. Google has eliminated this success gap being knowledge, because I don't care what it is. When my wife asked, she said, babe, can you do this? I said, if I wanted to, I could. Why? Because if you type in how to ... guess what? You're going to probably figure out, you're going to have a lot of videos, and they've gotten really, really good, right? They've gotten really, really good at helping us be really, really bad, right? Because we say, oh, for instance, my wife and my son are having a conversation, and I will ask them, hey, why is the speed limit over here 23 miles an hour, right? In one of these places. Why is the speed limit 23 miles an hour? And my son says, well, maybe that's as fast as golf carts can go. And since there are a lot of golf carts, and so he's using logic and trying to figure it out. My wife picks up her phone and she's like, oh, it was because the owner of the complex this. And I'm like, well, I didn't want to know the answer. I wanted to create conversation. I wanted to have a discussion, right? So it's no longer the knowledge is not the gap for success. Action. Action is the gap for success. The ones who are successful are doing while everyone else is learning and talking and failing to decide. All right, think about those who are really, really excellent in whatever area, whether it is being a husband, wife, a parent, or being an agent, or being a teacher, whatever it is. The people that we envy, that's the word. The people we envy are the ones who are busy doing. And we see them doing, and then we sit here and say, well, if I knew what they knew, the truth is most of the people that are doing, they knew less than us right now when they started. Okay? Right here, self-fulfillment, a feeling of attainment. How would you feel? How would you feel if you actually did what you promised yourself you would do? Probably freaking awesome, right? If you actually did what you promised yourself you would do, how would you feel? Our problem, and the reason I'll say problem is we don't ask ourselves that question until Neil is up here asking you that question. Because I'm sitting here, I'm seeing everything, and everyone has that look like, if I did what I promised myself I would do, my life would be great, right? The problem is that we're not asking ourselves that frequently enough, and then instead of us doing what we promised ourselves we would do, we're doing what someone else has asked us to do, right? And that is in business. Now we're going to talk about real estate. Right here, if you prospected, that's a dirty word, I know. If you prospected the way you promised yourself you would prospect, what would your business look like? Right? Now, prospecting does not mean cold calling. Prospecting does not mean door knocking. Prospecting means whatever you want prospecting to mean. If you did your daily activities like you were supposed to, how would you feel? What would your life look like? Instead of doing what the one loud, irate client or customer asks you to do, even though it's unimportant but it's urgent, right? Everyone familiar with unimportant and urgency with those ideas? So there are some things that are unimportant and unurgent. There are some things that are urgent and unimportant. There are some things that are urgent and important. And then there are something that's in the fourth quadrant. You guys got it? Good. All right. So what would your life look like if you did what you promised yourself you would do? Get a very clear picture of what your life would look like and what you would feel like, and then just work backwards. If it's big enough, we've heard know your why, right? Know your why. Everyone familiar with what's your why? Who are those people that would be better? How would your life be better if you did what you promised yourself you would do? What's going to happen as a result of that? Here's the issue. This is my friend Ben. Our issue is that we are emotionally immature. Emotionally, as adults, we are immature. I can prove it to you right now. How many of us, so there are three brains, three different, when I say brains, I'm not thinking aliens, but we all have three brains going to battle inside of our heads. The first one is the robot brain. The robot brain is the brain that helps you breathe, walk, drive a car after you've learned, right? That's the one that handles all of the day-to-day actions. That's the one that 95% of our processes are handled by the robot brain, right? The robot brain, if you had to think about taking every breath, some of us would drop like this, right? That's just too much brain power, right? That's the robot brain. The monkey brain is what holds us as agents and adults captive. So we have the robot brain. The monkey brain is the one that makes us want to get coffee, right? The one that makes us want to get the new shiny object, the shiny object syndrome. That's the monkey brain talking to us. The monkey brain wants to have fun. The monkey brain wants you to indulge in everything you're doing to make you feel good, right? The robot brain, the only task, the only responsibility for the robot brain is survival. That's it. The robot brain takes care of survival. How can I remember to drive so I don't crash? Okay. The monkey brain wants you to look at the crash on the side of the road, wants you to look at the billboard, wants you to give the other person the middle finger. That's the monkey brain. So those are the two. Is everyone with me? So in the checkout line at Target or at Publix, when they have all of those things right there that you never knew that you needed until you got right to the checkout, what do you all think that those items are targeting? This is the interactive session. Which one? They're targeting the monkey brain because, oh, I did not know that I needed this right here. Now, for instance, Walmart has turned it into a whole section, the as seen on TV section, right? Because that's the fun thing. That's all that your mind is after. There's a third part of the brain called the sage brain. That's where the wisdom is. So you have the robot, the monkey, and then the sage. The sage brain is always, the only purpose for the sage brain is for it to make you better. It's for improvement. The robot brain handles 95% of automated functions that we do. The monkey brain is 5%. So we have 95 and 5. Guess how much room is left for the sage brain? 0. The issue is that the sage brain is only engaged intentionally. When was the last time that you walked into a room where they were doing a presentation and saw donuts and coffee and you're like, oh, it would be great right now to drink a green shake, a green juice? It doesn't happen unless you're intentional about that, right? If you walk into a candy shop, you don't walk into a candy shop and say, I wonder if they have asparagus or Brussels sprouts. It does not happen unless you're intentionally looking for things. Fair enough. Everyone understand where I'm coming from with that. So emotionally, we are immature. The next great news is that naturally we're all lazy. Every one of us is lazy. And the reason I say that's good news, Elon Musk, let's see who else, Sir Richard Branson, they're both lazy. The good news is we look at them and we see them as super achievers, but if they're lazy and they're super achievers, we can put some processes and systems in place so that we can perform just like they can. Is everyone okay with that idea? A great way, do we have any ladies in here know who Michael Jordan is? Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley. The reason I use them as examples is when they were playing basketball, they were in the peak shape of their lives. They had what's called discipline, right? But the reason we know they're lazy is the moment they retire and they stop chasing or making themselves better, do you all know what happens to them? They get fat, they get slow, and they start looking sloppy. Why? Because naturally, this is them right here. If you go back to your natural state, in real estate, our natural state is not to prospect, it's not to go on buyer consultations and listing consultations, it's not to attend closing. Fair? Why? Because it's easier, especially when we can work from home, to do this right here. So how do we overcome that? Focus. Laser focus is what's going to make us better or the best. So what are some of the things that we should be focused on in our industry? What are some of the things that we should focus on? Oh, interactive session, go. Current market, meaning?
Like the market conditions, what's going on in your area?
Market conditions, partially. And the reason I say partially is because some of the things that's happening in your market are just going to be, they're going to happen regardless whether you're doing your business or not. Some of that stuff is outside of our control. A lot of what happens in the market is outside of our control. So I'm glad that, and your name, ma'am? Lisa. So Lisa brought up the market. So I've studied Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs have this process, especially the snipers, or when they're in, we see them in combat, we think that they are assessing everything and they have to move quick. Every Navy SEAL learns the same thing. It's called the OODA loop, O-O-D-A. And I would love for you all to learn about the OODA loop because it's what I implement in my life, and my 11-year-old son uses the OODA loop right now, O-O-D-A. First one is observe. So we can observe the market, all right? We can't do unless you're doing a big part of the transactions, there's very few things that you're going to do that's going to just change the entire market. Fair? So we can observe. The second O is orient. So you want to orient yourself. Where do you fit in to what's happening in the market? So we want to observe, orient. D is decide. Decide. Now that I know what's happening, I know where I fit in, let me decide how I'm going to move forward. And what's the last one? I'm sorry? Act. And which do you think is the most important? Act. We will observe, we'll orient. Now, what happens in our industry is when we orient, that's what we call complaining, right? We get in and say, the market is here. Oh yeah, but I don't have this. I'm not with this office. My broker doesn't give this. Well, my buyers, I can't find the clients. I don't have the leads. Right? So that's what our orientation is. But we want to see, okay, if we know that the market has right now, let's say, I don't know what your market is in mind. We are still in a seller's market. We have very little inventory for single family homes, 300 to 400,000. That's our sweet spot down in South Florida. 300 to 400,000. We don't have a lot of good inventory in that price point. So the buyers are having to pay above appraised value, but if you don't have the money to come out of pocket, you're losing. Everyone fair, okay with that? So OODA, so I will observe, okay, I understand this is what's happening. Now let me orient myself. Well, I know that as a buyer specialist, what am I going to do with the information that's given here? That's where I see where I am as a buyer specialist. And then I decide I can either have my buyers go through different programs, have them get more money. I might be able to have my 300 to 400 start looking at 250 properties so they can have money to come out of pocket. Right? I might do something like that. And then my action, how am I going to actually act? How am I going to move forward on what I've decided to do? If I'm a selling agent, a listing agent, in my Orient section, so I can observe the market. But in my Orient section, is it going to be different depending on if I'm working with buyers or sellers? Yes, it is. Here's why. Because if I'm working with sellers in a seller's market, my decision and my actions are going to be different. Would you all understand what I'm saying there? And so what we forget is we will see what's happening and then we'll say, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. We skip where do we fit in the market, because we may hear it's a tight market. You know, it's a buyer's market. All right. So, but what does that mean to you? Are you working with sellers? Does that mean that you need to have better conversations, better consultations initially so that you can set realistic expectations? All right. And the same thing happens in school. So my son, he's here in Orlando with me. We're driving him back tonight because he has his 5th grade dance tomorrow. And here's how his OODA loop worked. He started thinking, he says, okay, I want to be in Orlando. I want to have a good time, but I have a situation where I have a dance and he has a date to his dance tomorrow, right? So now this just magnifies everything. So I have to decide, okay, so I'm here, I have a date, the dance is tomorrow. So he came to me, Daddy, I want to go to Orlando, but I want to have a date with Jasleen at the dance. I said, okay, what are we going to do? He said, I think you can go through, and if I call Seth's mom to come pick me up and meet at Port St. Lucie, my son is 11 years old. He's like, Daddy, what's halfway? I said, figure it out. He gets his iPhone, looks up Port St. Lucie, Service Plaza, halfway. He says, Daddy, if I can get Seth and his mom to come pick me up at the Port St. Lucie Service Plaza, would you take me down? I said, yeah. He said, you're teaching on Thursday, right? I said, yes. I said, are you? Because he was going to come to the class with me. So my son was going to come, my wife, they were going to come to the class. So he said, okay, well, Daddy, here's what I want to do. I want to go to the pool with Joanna, which is my wife, in the morning, but that means I have to skip your class, Daddy. I said, are you willing to do that? He says, I am. I said, that hurt my feelings a little bit. That hurt my feelings a little bit. He says, but Daddy, I need Gran, because my mom was going to come as well. But Daddy, I need Gran to stay here because she's getting the passes for me to go to the park. I'm like, okay, so you're taking my wife and my mom away from me. He says, I said, are you okay with that? Daddy, I am. I said, okay, fine. So that's why my wife, my son, and my mom aren't here. But I want you to see how the OODA loop works even at an 11-year-old's thinking. He says, okay, here's the issue that we have. He observed the issue. He saw where he was. He made a decision. And then this morning, well, last night, he started acting on it. Gran, I know you wanted to go with Daddy to his class, but don't you want to spend time with me because you know I leave tomorrow? And I'm thinking, son, you're going to be back with her on Saturday. Right? But the OODA loop doesn't change. So that's something that I would love for us to keep in mind in anything that you do. So it's not just business, but it's in life. OODA loop for Ann. She came in. She saw the coffee and the donuts. She came in. She was like, oh, you know, I've been dragging a little bit. Yeah, Rhonda, how dare you bring the coffee and the donuts, right? So Ann was dragging a little bit. She came in and she looked. She observed the donuts and the coffee. And then she had to orient herself. She was like, okay, I'm here. I know where I am as far as my mindset. She had to decide. She says, I'm not a coffee drinker. She's not a coffee drinker. She had to decide, is she going to drink coffee or not? And then her action was, here, let me get some water. Yay, go me. Right? So the same thing. Think about that every time you're going through. The OODA loop doesn't change. What are some of the other things that we should focus on? What are something that we should be focused on either in life or in business? Interactive. I'm sorry? Past clients, absolutely. What else? What? Prospecting. Just on those two, how many of your past clients and your prospecting time are getting the laser focus that they deserve right now? Right? I can tell you right now, if you did what you promised yourself to do with your past clients and your prospecting, your business would change. And people will be coming to you asking, tell me the secret. How did you do it? I did what I said I was going to do. That's why before everyone came in, I made a statement. You all know everything that you need to do to get to where you want to be. You know every single thing that you need to know to get to where you want to be. What's the issue? Taking action, right? That's the tough part. That's not sexy. No one wants to hear, oh, it's my fault that I'm not where I want to be. But until we make that decision, you're not going to get any better. So we're going to actually put some processes and some procedures in place right now. Now, I have a question. This is not a CE class. So by law, I don't have to give you a break, right? I know that we have a lot of information. We're 55 minutes in. What I would love to do, with your permission, as I said, my mom is here, my wife is here. I've learned to ask ladies for permission before I do anything. See, there we go, good stuff. Is it okay if we just continue to go through, and then if you all need to get up and leave, walk out, do whatever, you all can do that at your leisure or on your own time as you feel, all right? All right, so some processes that we're going to put in place. Number one, the first one is we're going to control our phones and stop letting our phones control us. So we see this a lot. The issue with this is we were at Universal Studios yesterday. We were waiting in line. I saw family members of, let's say, 7 or 8, and all 7 or 8 of them had their phones. I was bumped into no less than 20 times walking around a theme park that's supposed to be for amusement with people doing this right here, okay? I was on a ride, I was on the Simpsons ride yesterday, and the kid next to me, I say kid, he was probably 20 years old, right? So he was next to me, Simpsons ride, 3D, animated. He's sitting here looking at his phone, and I'm sitting here like, boy, do you know how much that ticket was that you just bought, right? So we have to control our phones instead of allowing our phones to control us. One of the issues that we have here is that we never see ourselves doing this, right? We never see ourselves as the guilty one. Think about how many times have you told either your family member, friend, or spouse, significant other, hey, get off of your phone so much, get off of your phone so much, get off of your phone so much. I'm willing to bet in our industry that we are probably on our phones a lot more than they are, right? The problem is that when we get off, we know we're going to be right back on our phones, so we want to have them move at our time or stop what they're doing when it's convenient for us, all right? If you would be more conscious, I know on iPhone, can you all check and see how much screen time you're having on your phones? I believe there's a way where you can get it. Have you all looked at that? How many of you have looked at that in the past month? If you go on, I don't know exactly how, I know there are apps that you can get. It is one of them, if you Google, right, apps for whatever to check a phone usage or phone time, screen time, you have a lot of them either from Android or for iOS. And what you'll do is, the way I started was I would put a block on my phone that would not allow me to open my phone more than 10 times an hour, so I couldn't unlock it more than 10 times an hour. And here's the thing, I put my lock on for 30 seconds, right? So meaning that when I unlock, 30 seconds of non-use on my phone would lock my phone. Now this is extreme, but I had a big problem, right? I was a phone addict. Right, so I had to go almost cold turkey. So I wanted my phone to lock every 30 seconds as opposed to 3 minutes or 1 minute, because I wanted to force myself to unlock it when I wanted to get back on. What I found out was that I would unlock my phone at 10 times probably in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the hour. Right? I don't think that we know how big of a problem it is until we measure it. So if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. Everyone understand that idea. So we don't think that we're on our phones as much as we are. For instance, we don't think we eat as much as we do until we do the little calorie counter, right, on our phones, or until we're forced to write things down. And then when you go back and look at it, then you say, we don't think about how little or how much we walk until we check our Fitbit apps or whatever on our phone. Right? So that's why we want to start measuring, and we want to put some processes in place to say, turning off the, how many of you love social media? Like love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, good, I'm in a safe room. All of my social media apps, they are not on my home screen of my phone. My wife, she has, do we have anyone here that when you see that little notification, orange or blue, it just drives you crazy if you don't clear it off? Like, I don't have that problem. I will have 17 emails, I have 40 alerts, and it doesn't bother me, right, on the top or on my home screen. So I don't have any social media apps on the home screen of my phone. They're all buried in folders. right? So if you bury your apps in a folder and you have to be intentional about going in and finding them, you'll be less likely to use them. No screen zones, no phone zones. We have no phone zones in my office. As a real estate broker, I have no phone zones in my office. So part of our no phone zone is in our conference room when you're going in with buyer or sellers. Why? Because if you're in there, you need to be where your feet are, right? I have no phone zone. My bedroom at home is a no phone, no screen zone. So because in my home, we do not have a TV in the bedroom and we don't allow our phones in the bedroom. Well, for obvious reasons, because the bedroom is for other stuff than watching TV and talking on the phone, right? Part of that goes into, how many of you are using your phones as your alarm clock to wake you up? The issue with that is, what does that mean? Usually our phone is within arm's reach of us so we can hit the snooze, right, when the alarm goes off. What I did was I went to Family Dollar. And this is, now all of this comes from my mentors. This comes from Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Darren Hardy. I read a lot from W. Clement Stone, Napoleon Hill. All of those guys, whether I've met them personally or through their training, they're telling us, make sure that we are in control of our technology. Our technology is not in control of us. Everyone okay with that idea? So I have a digital clock that that's battery operated with the backup in case power goes out, that I set my alarm for, and it's a radio. You know, the music comes on. So it's one of these things where I have to get up, get out of bed, and turn that off. If someone calls me after 8 p.m., with the exception of my son's mom and then my son, with the exception of them, I have a do not disturb turned on that only allows certain calls after 8 p.m. to my phone. Now, this is extreme, right? It's totally extreme, but it works for me. This is what allows me to live the life that I want to have. Still do business, but then also enjoy my family and freedom. UCI, University of California, Irvine, 23 minutes, 15 seconds to regain your concentration after you've been interrupted midway through a task. Right here, let me ask you, what are some of the interruptions that we have in our lives? What are some of the interruptions that we have in our lives? Text. What else? Humans. Get more specific with humans. Okay, so one of the things, now see, like, that's an eye-opener, right? The people that we love are a lot of times our biggest interruptions. Okay? My son used to be my biggest interruption. My wife, she works from home as well. She used to be a huge interruption. So what I'm going to ask you to do, they love you. The people love you. Your family members, your significant others, your kids, your dogs, they love you. They want all of you. But if they want the best of you, it's our job to train them. Okay, and not in a disrespectful way. So I let my son and my wife know that when I'm working between these hours, if I have this up on the door or on the wall that you'll see at my desk, I cannot be bothered. The reason being is because when I'm at my best, if you give me 90 minutes of uninterrupted, excellent time, that 90 minutes will get us 3 hours on the back end. This is the idea of what's called a jam session. So we have the idea of power hours for prospecting, right? Studies show us that the human brain can concentrate for, laser focus for a max of 90 minutes, the max of 90 minutes. So I'm going to ask you all to think about, because this is why I talked about time blocking earlier. So you want to do what's called a jam session, which means that if you can get 90 minutes where you're just rocking, where you're in your flow state, in sports we call it in the zone. Have you all ever been in the zone or in that flow state where nothing you did went wrong, right? Think about it where you were really rocking and you look up, and this is usually when you're doing something really good and you look up and you say, man, where did all the time go? Right? Not the negative, like, oh my gosh, because when we aren't looking forward to something, time seems to creep on forever. But when you're really rocking, when you're in your flow state, you'll see that time goes by faster. So that's how you'll know that you're in the zone. So in a jam session, you want to max 90 minutes. The optimum time is 60 minutes. 60-minute jam session. So when you're time blocking, if you're going to prospect, and this goes back to the hour of power methodology, they didn't tell us why the hour of power. We just knew it was an hour of power. Then people said, no, you want to double it? Let's do 2 hours of power. But that's counterproductive. So your mind can really lock in and get productive in 60-minute jam sessions, max of 90. So when you're writing out your calendar and your top priorities, you want to block maybe 75 minutes. Give yourself 15 minutes to get amped up and warmed up, because especially if you're working in an office. Give yourself 15 minutes to get amped up, warmed up. That other 60 minutes, you want to go, and then stop. Especially we're working at desk a lot. We're sitting down. Get up, walk around for a minute, minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. And then if you're going to attack the same task, do that, but give your body a chance to get up and your mind a chance to reset or reload. Everyone understand that idea? With that, how many of you are working on numerous tasks a day, numerous, whether it's clients, prospects, whether it's projects that you're doing? So you say, Neil, I can't only devote 90 minutes or 60 minutes to one thing. This is what we call the box and shelf technique, the box and shelf. So the box and shelf, what the box and shelf is that you're going to take whatever the project that you're working on, let's just say prospecting. If prospecting is what you are doing and you've promised yourself that you're going to prospect for 60 minutes, we're going to give ourselves 15 minutes to get set up, open up our computers, get everything ready, do our little woo-saw, whatever it is, and then we're going to prospect for 60 minutes, uninterrupted. You're calling. You can have your do not disturb on your phone and still be prospecting where your calls go out. Everyone okay with that idea? All right. And when you're prospecting, do not look at your emails. If a call comes in while you're prospecting, if it's a return call, do not answer the return call during your prospecting. All right? The reason being is because it will get you off and then you'll be distracted and then we'll be right back here, right? And you'll get off task. So if you're prospecting, prospect for that 60 minutes. When you're done, get up, decompress, come back down. Now, if you want to check your emails, then you want to check your emails for 60 minutes. Okay? Once you're done with your emails. So the reason it's called box and shelf. You want to take the box off, work on it. When you're done with it after your jam session, what are you going to do with that box? You're going to put it back on the shelf. And you're going to forget about it until the next time you take it off. Our issue, one of the problems, a huge problem that we have is that we will have a task. Let's say that we have a listing presentation or marketing consultation on, today is Thursday, let's say we have it on Monday. What are we thinking about today and tomorrow and Saturday? We're thinking about, okay, well, did I get the comps? Did I look at the relevant properties? Did I get the pre-marketing book sent out? And we're thinking about this all day. So we're never focused and we're never getting it done. And so, especially on the weekend, we'll find ourselves, we call it open tabs on our computers. How many of you are a person that opens up the tabs and have 6 tabs open on your time at the computer, right? Oh, we have one that's guilty. There you go, right? She's the only one. We do the same things with our minds, all right? So we will have 6 or 7 tabs open. And you'll identify these people, you'll be walking and talking, they'll be like, oh, I got to do this. And then they'll come over here, oh, I got to do this. They're looking and they might see something that reminds them of an open tab in their life, right? And then it's causing them to get distracted and they're not operating in excellence. Everyone understand that idea? So what we want you to do is have one tab open, be excellent in it for the time that you've promised yourself. Once you're done with it, put it back on the shelf. Now you can readdress it whenever you want to, just make sure that it's at a time that you've decided and not that someone has decided for you. All right? Everyone okay with that? Well, let me go back here. What are some of the other distractions? What are some of the other distractions that we have that might be calling on us besides emails or phones or what else? Grandkids. So picking up grandkids. So there are things, for instance, that you have that have to get done. Right? I would say, okay, well, this has to get done. I still use a paper calendar because remember I said that we learn by writing, seeing, doing, listening. So part of mine is everything. This is how I plan out my week. Every one of my weeks is planned out on Sunday. This is called the Sunday planning system, and I'm going to show you all how to do that. Jim Rohn, one of my mentors that I love, says never start anything until you've finished it. It's the same idea of when they go to build this building. They did not start building the building until the blueprints were finished. Okay? So we want to get our week down in writing before we ever start. So I come through and I put in the absolute non-negotiables. For instance, I had a doctor's appointment on May 20th. That's in there. Talk about grandkids. I have to pick up my son from school on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. So from 1:30 to 2:30, that's in here. That's a non-negotiable for me. Okay, but I've planned this out. So you'll see here that all of the yellow means that I've gotten, that I did everything I was supposed to. The pink means I did not get done what I needed to. But now, visually, I can come in and I can look and see what kind of week I had. I can see Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I did not get it done on Friday, right? I can't lie to myself with this right here. If that's going to be on your phone, however it is, you want to have something that you hold yourself accountable. We know everything that we're supposed to do, we just don't do it, all right? For instance, I can go back here, I can look and see that Monday, May 13th, I had a killer day. I did every single thing I was supposed to. Tuesday, I had a crappy day, right? And this goes back to Uda. I have to see where I am. I see what I did not get done. So then if you look on my Wednesday, I knew that I was not going to have a bad Wednesday when I finished Tuesday. When I finish Tuesday and I go through at the end of every day, I look and see what I'm doing the next day. So at the end of Tuesday, when I had to be honest with myself and say I didn't do 3 tasks that were supposed to be high priority for me, when I didn't get those done, I knew that my Wednesday, my Thursday, and Friday were going to be strong. Do you all understand where that is? Now, what happens with this is, and the reason I share that with everyone is that there has to be a level of accountability and being honest with yourself that most people would think is radical. So I share my calendar with 3 people every week on Sunday. When I get it done, I'll share what I call my rocks. So you all familiar with big rocks, small rocks, sand idea? We put our big rocks in place on our calendar. Those are the non-negotiables. What has to happen? Your grandkids have to get picked up from school. If you're going to do it and it's a non-negotiable, why not schedule it and make it an appointment? Now, we don't feel bad about doing it because, oh, I should be working. No, you shouldn't. You should be doing what you promised yourself you would do. So my son comes on here. My date night with my wife every Thursday from 7 until goes on my calendar. For instance, today is what? In Orlando. We're going out. It has to get done. If not, I haven't filled this out, you'll see that my family trip to Orlando is up here, right? That's because this is a big rock for me. So the big rocks go in on my calendar. And then these small rocks, the smaller rocks go in, such as my prospecting time. And the reason I say prospecting is a small rock for me, because I'm talking about in the view of life, okay? So understand that my family time, me picking up my son or grandkids, the date night with the significant other, those are big rocks. Small rocks, prospecting. Small rock might be a buyer consultation. In your life, buyer consultation, marketing presentation might be a big rock. Whatever is non-negotiable. Those might go in. Those, I will take a photo of my week, everything that I know, and I send that to my wife. I send that to 2 of my accountability partners. The reason I send it to my wife is I want her to know that she's important enough to be on my calendar. Okay? My son, he looks at my calendar. He's like, Dad, did I make your calendar this week? I say, yep, there you are right there. We have basketball times in there. We have our Fortnite time on my calendar. Now, it might be corny. But for him, he thinks he's important enough to be on Daddy's calendar. He knows it's going to happen. Your clients, if you're going to be prospecting should go on your calendar in 90-minute, maybe 60 to 90-minute intervals, 90 minutes max, jam session. We're okay. We understand that idea, right? Now I come back and I talk to my best friend, one of my accountability partners who's in Birmingham, Fremo. He knows nothing about real estate, nothing, but he does know about accountability. He'll look. He said, hey, how did you do today? Did you get everything you needed done? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. What didn't you get done? I didn't get this, this, and this. Were those your top 3 priorities? No, they were B. Are we familiar with A, B, and C priorities, things that must get done? It would be nice if they got done. And C are usually responses that we probably shouldn't be doing anyway, right? Those type deals. So that's one of the things, that's one of the systems that I have in here. We want to get rid of permission to continue. Yes? Okay. To do, if you look, every time I get any type of planner, there's no such thing as a to-do list in my planner. You'll see right here, the word to do is marked out on every single page in every planner I have or I give all of my agents. The reason being, we get stuck. Who loves to-do lists? Because it makes us feel important, like we've done something. Superhero complex. Right, you ladies are superheroes all the same though, okay? So here's the issue with a to-do list. To do are just things that you need to do. My cousin is a to-do list person. She will do something, get it done, and then go write it on her list afterward just to mark it out. And I'm like, what are you doing? Because now, emotionally immature, it looks like we've done something, right? Warren Buffett, I'm not sure if it's in here or not. Warren Buffett says, here's how he got to be where he is right now. Darren Hardy does the same thing, and so did Jim Rohn. I want you to write out on a weekly basis, write out all the things, your top priorities, whether that's 5 things, whether it's 50 things, write out your top priorities. And this is going to be part of our Sunday planning. Okay, write out your top priorities in any order. Get them down on paper. After you've written out your top priorities, choose your top 10. Number your top 10 priorities. And then get the top 3 and throw everything else away. So you want to choose, I'll write down all of your priorities. Then you want to choose your top 10. And then you want to get your top 3, and those are going to be your top 3 priorities for the week. Okay? And the reason I say for the week is if you get done with priority number 1, 2, and 3, did you have a great week if those are really your top priorities? Yes, they are. Our issue is we will add items that are easy to our top priority list because we could check it off. And this requires a level of accountability and responsibility to yourselves that very few people are willing to do. So if I say I have 15 things on my priority list, and I'm going to show you all a sheet that I use. I believe I'm going to show you a sheet that I use. And then you all, maybe not, that is going to be, yes I do. I'm going to show you a sheet that I use, and I will get this out to you all through Rhonda. It is called my Sunday planning sheet. Now this comes from Darren Hardy with Insane Productivity, who is one of my mentors. But in here, let me see if I can find that's the dashboard, daily production, Sunday planning. So it's going to look like this right here, and I'll have it on the screen for you ladies in a moment. You'll see it. But what's my big goal number 1, 2, 3, and then there's a miscellaneous. We call this miscellaneous the devil's vortex. So the devil's vortex are all of those things that we could do, but they suck up all of our time. For me, we don't watch TV in my house. We don't have cable. Right? We have Hulu and we have Netflix for my son, but we don't have cable. We probably watch less than an hour of TV a week. Is that extreme? Yes. But do we get to do and live a life that people would say, oh, that's awesome? But what are you willing to give up to get what you really want? That's a question I would ask you. What are you willing to give up to get what you really want? I love sports, but I have not watched any single sporting event in the past 3 years. I haven't watched a basketball game. I used to play football. I haven't watched a football game in 3 years. Why? Because me watching someone else live their dream is not important enough for me to forfeit 2-3 hours, right, that I could be getting better. Do you all understand that idea? So once you have, I'm always challenged, say, Neil, how can I write down all of my priorities for the week and then number out my top 10 and then only choose 3? Because you have to get really, really honest and say, these are really my top 3 priorities for the week. And when I say top 3 priorities, they're probably not going to be the easiest things to get done. They are not going to be do my social media marketing, right? On the grand scheme of things, in real estate, there are really 3 priorities in real estate now that are your top 3 priorities. The first one is going to be prospecting. Then it's going to be pitching listings. Now, if you're a buyer specialist, the flip side is going to be buyer consultations. So it's either going to be prospecting, getting listings or buyer agreement signed, and then the third one is going to be negotiating contracts. Those are our top 3 priorities as far as a task is concerned. All right. So what are your top 3 priorities? What is your prospecting going to look like? Are you going to do buyer consultations or marketing consultations? Are you going to negotiate contracts? If you don't have those 3, then you'll come in and say, okay, well, what's my next task? One of the things that Jim Rohn talked about was that he only gets one thing done a day. When he was great, he would get one thing done a day. But guess what that one thing was? The top priority. Have to-do list, and we have a list of our top priorities. If we have a to-do list, most of our to-do list, this to-do list is not numbered. It's not as far as priority. It's just as it comes to my head, I put it down. So in my head, which one am I going to get done? The easiest. So she said the first one, but most people go to the easiest. And most of the time, what is the easiest? The easiest usually is the least impactful. All right? So we want to do the change that we want to do the most impactful project, the most impactful activity first. If whatever's going to move the needle, this needle moving activity, this dollar productive activity, that's the one we want to get done first. For me, my number 1 dollar productive activity for me is speaking, teaching, and training and presenting. That's it. Even in real estate. So if my number 1 priority is to book a gig a week somewhere. So when Rhonda was like, oh, well, Neil, you're on vacation. Thank you so much. But that's my number 1 priority. Why does it fit in? Because it allows me to have access to people who are outside of my market in South Florida. So now when you all think of an agent in Miami, in Hollywood, in Miami-Dade or Broward County, you say, hey, I know Neil, right? So think about that. That's why I'm intentional about that. So if you all think, what's your number 1 priority? If you do nothing else, a lot of times my day is, I'm going through, what's my number 1 priority is to book a gig for the week. So that's always my number 1 priority for that week. Yes, ma'am.
I also like to try to make the number 1 thing that I hate doing the most my number 1 thing. Because if I get up anywhere like to exercise, hate exercising, I can't stand it, but I understand the value of it. So if I'm going to exercise, it's going to happen in the morning. Because I know I'm not going to do it the rest of the day.
That's why mine starts at 5 a.m.,
yeah.
Right? Absolutely. So here's the quote. Do what you hate doing like you love it, right? People say, Neil, you must really enjoy working out for you to get up at 5 o'clock. No, I hate it, but I do it like I love it. That way I get that done. So at 6:30, I've already conquered one of the biggest rocks, one of the biggest challenges of my day, right? So I do that, and then I make my wife a breakfast. We make breakfast. Now, it's just cereal, so don't be like, oh, you're such a good. No, it's just cereal. Special K, that's it, with the red berries. So that's what we'll do. But then make sure that your priority is not only something that you might hate, but it has to be something that moves the needle. If it does not move the needle, don't do it. All right? Everyone okay with that idea? Right here. Can anyone identify with this photo? Bound to their phones. And the reason I continue to go back and forth to the phone is because whether we like it or not, it's not going to slow down. Right? If you're a person who is fighting with someone else, telling them to get off their phone, stop doing their phone, the best way is to lead by example and then show them how to do so. It is easier to avoid temptation than to resist it. It is easier to avoid temptation than to resist it. What does this mean? This means, as we've been talking about, we don't want to have our email clients or our emails popping up to us every single time. Remember, I talked about the monkey brain and the sage brain. The monkey brain is going to say, open it up, do this, eat the donut, eat the cake. I love peanut M&Ms. Love them to death. My wife, you know how they have the holiday peanut M&Ms? My wife, she wants to be festive, and she wants to put the M&Ms out in a little bowl at the office or at home. And I said, get rid of them. I don't want them there. And she says, why not? I never see you eating them. I said, but the problem is when I have to resist those M&Ms, I'm using my willpower every time I walk by and I don't get it. Because I have to make that decision, remember? Now, if they weren't there, would I have to make that decision? No. Now, the mistake that we make is we don't think that, well, first, Jim Rohn said that everything matters and everything we do affects everything else. All right? You all understand that idea. So my son does not eat candy. He oddly crazy. He has no idea, doesn't care about candy or anything, but he loves pineapples, but he's allergic to them. All right? Crazy. He loves them. He's allergic to them. So one of the things that we did was, he's allergic to them, so we avoid, right, instead of resist, because I know that if I put pineapples out, even though they're bad for him, he would give in to that temptation every single time, and it would do something that would cause him to get sick, right? How many of us are putting things in our lives, in our businesses, that are bad for us, and then we'll say, no, it's okay, I'll just resist it. One of a great example of this, or the best example, avoidance versus resistance, and using willpower. We've been taught that self-discipline and willpower is going to help us be better. All right? We all think we have a lot of willpower and self-discipline on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. On Thursday, we're like, eh. And I want us to think about in our businesses first, because then I'm going to hit all of us where it hurts, myself included. In our businesses, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're okay. But if that tough client talks to you Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, after we've dealt with them at the front half of the week, our willpower has started to wane a little bit. You all understand what I'm saying? So we might say something or let something slip or send an email that we probably wouldn't have sent on a Monday or on a Tuesday because we've let our willpower, we've depleted it. It's the same as using the battery on your phone. When you take your phone right off the charger, usually that's our Monday. Well, realistically, in business, that's our Tuesday. So understand that usually our Tuesday is when we're our best, because Monday we're trying to get back up from a slow weekend, right? From being lazy, laying on the couch mentally. So on our Tuesday, that's when we have our full battery. But we're going through and we're dealing with people in our industry on Wednesday, on Thursday, so it's depleted. And here's where it's going to hurt. Our family members, the people that are closest to us, the ones that we love, they usually get us on a Saturday or Sunday, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, right? In our industry. What does that mean? They're getting us when we're at our worst. They're getting us when we've given our clients and our colleagues the best of us, right? And then think about your day. They might not get you in the morning because you might be up, running, and gone before they wake up, right? So they don't get you when you're fully charged at the beginning of the day. End of the day, they get you when you're fed up and all of the four-letter words you didn't use with your clients because you want to give them your best. Guess who gets it? Our loved ones. It happens every single day. Every single day.
How do you keep from getting depleted?
The way you keep from getting depleted is to put that avoidance in. This talks about the systems. So for me, I don't have difficult clients. The reason being, I have embraced the idea that I don't have to work with people who suck my energy. That's number one. All right. Number two is we could put a system in place where, don't take this the wrong way, let someone else deal with difficult people or difficult situations. Right? My wife, she is my transaction coordinator. She owns her own business, but she handles all my transaction management. So when it comes to dealing with those difficult, those tough situations and, those bad phone calls, my wife, she deals with that. Her personality, she loves it. That's her. For me, what would drain me energizes her. So I built a system and I put her there so I don't have to deal with that. She loves it. She gets a kick out of it. She gets energized coming home. And so now think about this. There's someone that loves doing whatever you hate. If you hate cutting grass, there are people who are lawn care specialists who love it. There are people who love washing cars, who whistle while they wash dirt and grime off of cars. Who does that? Right? Think about it. There are people who, when they're cleaning houses, they are excited. They feel like they're in their zone, their flow state. With you, you're yelling and cussing under your breath at every piece of laundry that you pick up from your kid or your spouse, right? So you want to find people who love what you do. And a bigger thing, instead of being depleted, is we want to make sure that we're building in time that's going to charge you up. My charge time is on Friday. So I had 2 date nights last week. I had Thursday at 7, and then I had another one Friday at 9. But on 7:30, I know that I have to put in time right here fishing. I love to fish. So I put things in my calendar, an appointment that I know that if I can get recharged, that's going to make me feel better, then that I'm not depleted. What we do is we're going, and we're giving everyone else the best of us. When was the last time you gave yourself the best of you? And as ladies in here, as moms in here, as spouses, significant others, I'll tell you, I've seen it this week with my mom and my wife and my 2 sister-in-laws. They're giving, they're doing, they're running around, bum, 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 bum. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, hey, can y'all stop? Can y'all do what's good for you? Because it's in your nature to want to give, want to do, want to support. And we always talk about self-care. When was the last time you really made yourself, that you gave yourself enough time to replenish so that you're not drained? Because, you know, it always talks about the instrument. For instance, my computer is only as strong and can only last as long as the source. So you see I'm plugged up, right? Your issue is in your lives, you're the source, right? So you always feel like you're plugged up. So your spouse, your business, your clients, your kids are the computer. Where are they coming to get all of their information? Where are they coming to get all of their energy from? They're coming to you. And the truth is, instead of being an outlet, you all are batteries. Right? So what's going to happen? You're going to get run down. And then when we get to the part where it's empty, we don't say, hey, yes, I'm empty. I'm going to recharge now. Thank you. We're like, shut up. Leave me alone. What are you doing? Right? It's too late then. Fair? Everyone understand that idea? So one of the things that we want to do to avoid instead of resist is make yourselves unavailable. They can't distract you if they can't find you. We know this stuff. We forget this stuff. They can't distract you. They can't interrupt you if they can't find you. The public library. I have a library card. So I said we don't watch TV. I do get a lot of old, anyone here remember Blockbuster movies? So now the library is a Blockbuster, right? So I just go in there with my library card. I go in there, and so my son and my wife, we watch movies. I go in there, I'm like, oh, we're on A. I'm like one of those old guys that comes and like, hey, where did we stop last time there? And I just grab, we watch all types of movies, right? DVDs from the library. But the other thing about the library is I know that they don't allow you to have your phones on in the library where I go. So if I don't have my phone on, if I go in there and I put it on Do Not Disturb, and I have 2 jam sessions for 75 minutes here, like I have one at 10, and then I have another one that starts at 11:15. I know I'll do my 10 o'clock jam session where I'm trying to book gigs, where I'm sending out emails, right? Everyone okay with that idea? I'll get up, I'll walk around the library 2 minutes, then I'll jump right back in, and I'll send my emails out from 11:15 to maybe 12:15. I'll send my emails out. The reason I choose that time is I usually want to send emails when everyone else is already inundated and they're already in front of their computers. So they're either going to respond, read my email, do what I need, and get it sent back to me by end of day, or they're going to be on their lunch break, and I know that they're not going to send me things immediately that need something from me. Right? So I talked about one way that we can control our emails. When I draft all of my emails from 11:15 to 12:15, I would do them offline. I draft all of my emails while I'm offline. So I don't know, like with me, I use Outlook. So I turn my email client off and I'll draft all my emails, and I might have 30 emails in my outbox to be sent. When I get ready to leave the library, I turn my email client on, so it's online, it sends all of them, I close my email, and I leave. Because what I don't want is, I don't want to be in my email client and then having my monkey brain see all these alerts. Oh, here's a response. I need to do this. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to resist, but eventually, with that 14th response comes in, I'm going to give in. And since I'm already responding to emails anyway, let me see what Ann needs. Let me see what Audrey needs. Let me see what Lisa needs. And then I'm on the defensive instead of the offensive. You all understand what I'm talking about there? Okay, so easier to avoid temptation than to resist. If they can't find you, they cannot distract you. Hide from people. Like the joke is, you know, when you go in the bathroom, like that's your quiet time, not in my house. My son will have a full-blown conversation with me in the bathroom. Like, hey, Daddy. I'm like, dude, personal space, what's that? Doesn't happen. All right, so hide a little bit. Any questions there? Are we good so far? All right. Can any of you identify with her? That's not a good thing, right? We tell ourselves that this is what a superhero looks like. This is what weakness looks like. If I have your permission to say that. If not, then I just strike that previous comment, all right? But the problem is, we've been told, you ladies have been told that in order to be the best you, this has to be you. And that's not true. What we would love to see is this being you right here. Let me be 100% committed. Let me do one thing. We give this advice to our kids. We give this advice to everyone else. This is the medicine that we prescribe, that we don't take for ourselves. Here, when you're here, I need you to be locked in, focused. How many times do we tell our kids or just our nieces and nephews, hey, focus on what you're doing. Think about what you're doing. Do we take our own advice? No. Because we're here, right? So one of the things that I want you to do, and this is why we want to focus on our top 3 priorities. Number 2 and number 3 do not get done until what happens? Until number 1 gets done. When number 1, if my highest priority for the day gets done and nothing else gets done, it was a good day. If my number 1 priority was really my number 1, you all understand that? If number 1 is really number 1, if that gets done, guess what we'll do tomorrow? We're going to look and see. Now, does my number 2 become number 1, or is there a new higher priority? If there's a new higher priority, let me backtrack real quick. You all remember where I said we're going to take all our priorities, put them down, choose our top 10, and then choose our top 3. If on your list that you have, if your top 10 appear to be very consistent, those are your real top priorities in life. If they are not, now that could be life or business. Understand we're using those interchangeably. So if they really are, now if one week you'll see that your top priority is prospecting, and then the next week you'll see where your top priority may be digital marketing. And then the next week your top priority might be planning a party, right? You have to say, well, are these things really moving the needle? In your life right now, your top priorities probably do not change, okay? Now, those are the big rocks, the non-negotiables. So on your list of top priorities, now we're not just talking about tasks themselves, we're talking about what are the important things in my life. A friend of mine I'm talking to now, he has his own media, social media business, and I asked, he's always talking about his business. Business is not going how I want it to go. Why not? And he's telling me this, this, and this, and just lamenting, telling me all the issues. And I said, well, is that the highest priority in your life right now? He said, no, my wife is. His marriage is. But then I look and I say, dude, your marriage and your wife are getting less attention and doing worse in your business. So you're telling me that this is a higher priority than this, but all of your focus is here and this is suffering. So if someone tells you something and show you something, what are you going to believe? What they show you. And so that's where we had to go back and had to talk to him and share with him that if this really is your highest priority, then let's make sure we focus our energy here. Now that has turned around, marriage and wife has turned around, and what happened as a result? Of course, now that things are good there, now business has changed because his priorities have changed. Everyone understand that idea? All right, so you'll see here that when we are multitasking, do we have any multitaskers in the room? Don't raise your hands. We are never multitasking. And I know some of you are going to say, Neil, I'm the exception. Respectfully, no, you're not. The human brain cannot do two cognitive functions at the same time. There's no way the human brain can do two cognitive functions. Neil, I can drive and listen to music. Once you've learned how to drive, it is no longer a cognitive function. It has become a robotic function, right? So, but think about this. When you are driving, listening to the radio, and you get lost, what happens? You turn the radio off. Why? Because you can't listen to the radio and drive at the same time. Yes, ma'am?
You know the best multitaskers in the world?
Who?
The ones that I envy the most?
Who is that?
Those girls in the drive-thru that can literally be on that headset, taking your money, talking to you, and taking an order at the same time. It just amazes me the way they can do that.
Now, on that note that Rhonda just said, how many of you have gone through a drive-thru?
Got the wrong order.
Or, and here's what I want you to think. So we are never doing more than one task at a time. We're switching back and forth. That's why what you'll hear happen is they'll say, did you say number 1? And you're like, no, I said a number 5. And you're thinking they don't sound alike. They're not. And so understand that what's good for business is not always good for the individual. Okay? So the business is forcing them to do something that's outside of what we call their circadian rhythm. So what they are taught to do, what they're taught by business is, we want you to do all these things at one time, because for them, if they make a mistake, they've already got your money. You just have to wait outside. Right? Understand? So what's good for the business isn't good for the individual. So what happens, think about this. How many of you have ever been on a conference call of some type, webinar, and checked your email? Because we're tasking doing both at the same time until the person calls on you to unmute yourself and say something or respond, and you're thinking, what did they just say? Right? It happens. Because the truth is we are never, ever, ever doing two cognitive functions at the same time. We're switching back and forth. So you're either checking email or you're listening. So they're either taking your money and counting your money in the drive-thru, or they're listening to the order. If you when you go through the drive-thru, even Chick-fil-A, and I love them, when they go through the drive-thru, they'll be looking at you, and they'll have that look where they're like this. You're like, yes, okay, may I have some ketchup? And they're looking at you like this right here. That's because that monkey, they're listening here, and they're not listening here. All right? Everyone understand what I'm talking about there. So just think about that we're never doing more than one thing at one time. Who is this? Do you all know who this is? Elsa. What is Elsa famous for?
Let it go.
Elsa is, see, I can say that now. See, the fact that you're a lady and you said that in here in a room full of ladies is awesome, right? Elsa is famous for letting it go, right? Not in the way, because usually when I hear that or I say that in a room full and guys are in there, they're like, what, Neil, can you say that? I'm like, no, I can't say that, so I'm glad you said it. Elsa is famous for letting it go. If you want to be a super achiever, you have to let some stuff go. You're never, capitalize never, write this one down, everyone. You're never going to get it all done. You are never going to get it all done. In our industry, in our lives, is there always something else to do? Yes. Some of you are nodding here like, mm-hmm. You're never going to get it all done. What's the key? The key is to get the right stuff done. The key is to get the right stuff done. So there are going to be some things that you just have to let go. There are going to be some people that you love that are going to make some requests, and you're going to have to use one of my favorite lines. I don't believe I can do that, but if it changes, I'll let you know. I don't believe I can get that done. I don't believe I can be there. I don't believe that it's going to happen, but if it changes, I will let you know. Now, I'm going to put a 4-letter word on the screen next. I have to make this disclaimer. It will offend some of you ladies. I do apologize. If it does, just let Rhonda know not to bring me back ever again. This is the 4-letter word I'm talking about right here. No. Some of you Some of you see the word no, hear the word no, say the word no as if it was the worst word in the English language. No is one of the most powerful words in the English language. How many of you love saying no? Most people don't love saying no. The super achievers love saying no. So Steve Jobs was asked what is he most proud of at Apple? He says, I'm more proud of what we don't do than what we do. Right? I'm more proud of what we say no to. And think about all the opportunities that he gets. Warren Buffett, right? Sir Richard Branson. And Sir Richard Branson has 400 companies. But Sir Richard Branson says that he's approached with about 40 or 50 business and corporate ideas a day that want him to say yes. And he says no to 99% of everything that he's approached with. So how good are you at saying no? My mentor, Jim Rohn, has this, and I hope that you'll take this one away. Learn how to say no. Don't let your mouth overload your back. How many of you have ever committed to something and then you're like, I should not have said yes to that? And then we have the regret and we feel like we're forced to stay committed to what we don't want. A great barometer. This is how we're going to judge what we say yes and what we say no to. If someone asks you something, if the answer, I'm going to say heck, because I'm from Alabama and my mom, she's here in town and she's a pastor, so I'm going to make sure I don't really swear. So if the answer is not heck yes, it's heck no. You all understand what I'm saying? If friends ask you, hey, do you want to go hang out? If it's not heck yes, meaning you're either going to enjoy it or it's going to move you closer to where you want to be. If the answer is not heck yes, say no. Hands down. Remove that torment of choice. Hey, do you want to go do this? Should you be doing this? Should you be on social media instead of meeting with clients face to face? If the answer is not heck yes, it's heck no. That's how we want. That's the best barometer I have. So for me, one of the things when my son was going through the whole thing, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Da, 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 da. For me, would I take him down to Port St. Lucie this evening? It was heck yeah, I'll take him. Right? This dude right here just laid out an entire plan. Now, if it wasn't heck yes, if it was I would come back and then I would have to evaluate what my priorities were, and then I would have to see where my son fit in on my priority list. Right? So that's something that we want to ask all the time. Learn how to say no. Don't let your mouth overload your back. And one of the great things, if you do not like saying no, I'm going to tell you, build a no system. So your no system is, I would love to do that. However, I don't believe my calendar will allow. I believe I already have other commitments. So I say no to everything first. I know we're taught to lead with yes. There's even a book, Lead with Yes, Lead with Yes. The people who write the books want you to lead with yes because they want you doing and being busy while they're being productive. All right, that's just what the inside scoop is. So I lead with no, and most of the time my no is in the form of I have to check with my wife or son. Because if you're the type person, if you hear me say I have to check with my wife and son, and if you have a problem with that, that means that I probably don't want to work with you or do business with you, right? So you all have heard me say it. So I had to get permission from my mom and my son and my wife since we were here. I said, Mom, we're going to be up in Orlando. I have an opportunity to present on productivity mastery. Are you okay with that? She said, sure. All right. I asked my wife. She said, sure. I said, son, you want to go with me? He says, And so I knew it wasn't a heck yes. So I figured it was a heck no from him. Right. So that's part of the no system. Find someone else to say no for you. Find someone else to say no on your behalf. And that could be you just using an alias. If you all send me an email asking me to, if I have time for a meeting at Starbucks for coffee, my email from info@neillotesjr.com is going to say, I don't believe that Neil has the time, but I'll check his calendar and get back. Now that's me sending the email just from info instead of Neil Oates. You all understand where I'm coming from. So you can create your alias because we think, I don't have anyone to say no for me. Yes, you do. It's that other person that's in your head, right? So for me, my email signature, I have one for Neil Oates, I have one for info, I have one for homes. Depending on the response I want to send back to them, it will say Neil already has a prior engagement, is me drafting the email, and then at the bottom, it will say client services department, and I'll send it off. They don't know that it's Neil. Now you all will know that it's Neil. If you all get that email, just say, Neil, quit playing, respond to me, right? But think about it. Who says that we can't do that? It happens to us all of the time. When they say, oh, thanks for doing this, we'll respond to you within 24 or 48 hours. As business owners, you can create your business to respond however you want, as long as that initial response comes in, telling them and setting the expectation. So that's how you can build your no system. Commitment. We want to commit less, as Jim Rohn said. I want you all to have fewer commitments. I want you to be committed to the right thing. Be committed to the prospecting. Be committed to your family. Be committed to yourself. Don't be committed to watching. The average time right now in the United States for that televisions are on are 7 hours a day. The average television time that televisions are on in American households are 7 hours. Now, think about this. If you're an adult, you're going to work you're at work from 9 to 5, maybe 9 to 6 now, or 8 to 5. And there's 7 hours after that. So think about the people that you know in your life. They're up watching TV until 12 or 1 in the mornings, and we're not giving our bodies time to recharge. So we're depleted, right? You all are with me? And then we're getting up and doing the same thing 5 days a week. 5 days a week. So that's why we want to be committed less, have fewer commitments, but we want to make sure we're committed to the right thing. Everyone okay with that idea? Peter Drucker, he is the father of modern business management. There is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. Do you all know anyone who's really good at just doing crap that doesn't even matter? Hey, let me show you the latest system. I have this funnel that allows me to to market, to do all of my social media posts. I use Hootsuite and they do this. Okay, but is that really going to make a difference in your bottom line? Right? If it is, good. If it's not, and you're just doing it because mainstream tells you to do it, why are you doing that? Another example that we will hear is some people climb a ladder really, really fast, only to find out that it's leaning on the wrong building, right? So why are you really good at doing something that should not be done at all? For instance, I do social media. I do a lot of social media. However, I don't do it. I have my son. My 11-year-old son is my social media marketing department. He handles all my posts. He has my phone. He's walking around. So if you see something really snazzy, it's my idea probably. If you see something really crappy, it's all him. Okay? But why should I be doing it if, like in my mind, I would rather be in front of my past clients. I would rather be face to face because I know that's where my money, that's where my spotlight time is. Focus on income producing activities. So when I say IPAs, I'm not talking about beer. Income producing activities or dollar producing activities, DPAs, the prospecting, the getting in front of buyers or sellers and negotiating contracts. Those are going to be the 3 foundational principles. How many of you have been in the industry for more than 10 years, if I may ask? All right. 10 years ago was prospecting the bloodline of the business. 10 years, hasn't changed, right? Pitching buyers and sellers hasn't changed, right? And then negotiating skills hasn't changed. 30 years from now, what it looked like might change, but those foundational principles aren't going to change. So make sure that we focus on dollar producing activities. Here's a statement that we've been taught, but it is only a half truth. Time is money. That is a lie. If you all can't tell, Jim Rohn was one of the great philosophers. He was one of my mentors. I love him to death, love what he did. Also, another one that I want you all to become a student of besides Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy. That's T-R-A-C-Y, no E, T-R-A-C-Y, Brian Tracy. Brian spelled I-A-N. Brian Tracy, Darren Hardy, D-A-R-R-E-N-H-A-R-D-Y. D-A-R-R-E-N-H-A-R-D-Y. So we have Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Darren Hardy. Zig Ziglar is another. Zig, Z-I-G, Ziglar, Z-I-G-L-E-R. W. Clement Stone, and then Napoleon Hill. So all of them, their ideals, their philosophies have what we've put into practice, what my mentors have put into practice. You know, Sir Richard Branson, I've gotten to talk to him a few times, like crazy, right? Like, wow, virgin. So we've got to get with him, and everything, the foundational principles have not changed. The difference is that they're actually doing, they're actually implementing what has been taught. So here's what we've been taught. Time is money. But Jim Rohn, hopefully you all will agree with him. Time is more valuable than money because you can get more money, but you cannot get more time. Would you all understand why that's so important? And the reason why we want to get more money, the drive, your purpose for wanting to get more money should be, and this is one time I will tell you to should yourselves, should be so that you can buy your time back. So the reason you want more money is so you can buy your time back. If I get more money, that means that I can now spend that money to hire someone to wash my car, clean my, now, and that's not an entitlement deal. That's so that I can spend time with my highest priorities, my family, my life, making sure my health is taken care of. Everyone understand that idea? Everyone okay with that? So we don't want to make more money for the sake of having more. We want to make more money to do more with what we have as far as time. Time is our most valuable asset. What we are doing, however, is we're spending all of our time working to make more money just to stay in that circle, just to work more, to make more money, to spend on something that we really don't need. And that will be the question. What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give up to get what you really want out of life? We've told that winners never what? And quitters never what? I'm going to tell you guys, you ladies, be a quitter. Be a quitter. Start quitting stuff that you should not be doing. This is counterintuitive. I tell people, Neil, what are you? I'm a quitter and an executioner. Like what? Like, dude, you're a quitter, because quit has a negative connotation in our society. I am a quitter. There are a lot of things that I do not do. I live and work in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. A lot of quit trying to target condos. I don't like them. I'm originally from Alabama. My specialty is single family homes. I like yard. Just like when I'm talking about this information here, when I see or when I show or when I sell a single family home, my clients or the customers can feel it. When I'm at a condo, they can feel it. The fact that I don't like bellman, that I don't like valet, that I don't like to wait for an elevator, they feel it. So I just decided I'm going to quit doing that. I quit working with first-time buyers. Now, I have agents that I have relationships with. They love it, but I quit doing that. I quit trying to speak at certain venues because it would be good with the money and the income, but the energy drain that it took from me, it wasn't worth it, right? So I quit a lot of things. So when people say, Neil, what are you good at? What are you the best at? And I start looking and seeing what I was the best at. I only do about 4 things. I only do about 4 things in my business. I quit everything else. Now, when I quit them, a lot of the things still had to be done. Me being a business owner, a small business owner, the accounting has to get done, right? But I quit doing it. You all understand where I'm coming from. I started saying, okay, well, it's just me. Let me make sure I get my accounting done. Everything costs. Everything costs. Your time costs. How much time are you spending, or how much money are you spending on time versus how much money are you investing in the time? Those are the 2 questions I would ask you. So I quit doing my accounting for my office because I was like, okay, here, let me just get it to someone else that's better at it, and then I can stick to my 4 things that are really good. And then an executioner. When you think of an executioner, what do you all think of? The guy in the black. Like on Shrek, right? Yeah, that's what I say Shrek because I'm always with babies, right? So the guy in the black who chops people's heads off, that's what we think of an executioner. But what is acting and executing the same thing? When you act, when you take action, are you executing? Absolutely. So when people ask you, what do you do? I'm a quitter and an executioner. Like, what in the world? Because for one, it's a great conversation piece. They say, what do you mean? Oh yeah, I quit doing all the stuff that doesn't make me money. I focus on dollar producing activities. And an executioner, yeah, that's where I'm different than the other 99%. I execute. And they say an executioner, we're taught at an early age that execution is a bad thing until you think about it in the right terms. You all with me? Okay. This is the torment of choice. And I'm going to be done in about 30 seconds. The torment of choice. You know that the more choices that you give people, the least likely they are to decide, right? So if you give someone 5 doors, 6 doors, they'll probably say it doesn't matter. If you give someone 3 doors, they're more likely to choose one. If you give someone 1 door, which one are you going to go through? What are they going to choose? They're either going to choose to go through it or not move, but more likely they're more proponent to, more likely to. So that's the same thing when we're in our businesses. How many properties are we usually showing when we're on one outing? Right? Now you might show your clients, your buyers, a lot of properties, but we usually, and this is just numbers wise, if you don't know this, take this away, we usually do not want to show our clients. They used to say 5, but now it's going down to 4 each outing that we're out. Now this is the general rule. The exception might be if you have out-of-town clients coming in and you really have to hit them all at one time. But we like to break them up into morning showings where you might do 4 showings in the morning, take a break, debrief, go grab that coffee and say, hey, make an excuse. I need to come here. Let's debrief. Let's see of these 4, which are your top 2? And then we might have 3 or 2 in the afternoon. But that's why we don't want them to have more than 4 properties seeing at a time. And here's why. One of the things that one of my real estate mentors, Chris Saunders, told me, he says, Neil, really, we can only process 3 things or keep, because when we get started, it takes 3, the number 3 to get a rhythm. But now, since we've learned, like we count 1, on the count of what? No one ever says, on the count of 4, let's say happy birthday. It doesn't happen. Never does. Science has proven that it takes 3 to form a pattern. But since we know that it takes 3 to form a pattern, we usually can't digest more than 3 bits of information at a time. So that's why down to 4, it was 5. Our attention span has decreased. So now we're saying, okay, show them a max of 4 properties at a time. You want to ask them of the 4, or ideally the 3, please order these, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then in the evening, if you have more showings or another day, order these. Now, which one of these? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this one better than this one? Is this 2 better than, and then get a true order, and that's how you want to start presenting offers on them. Everyone okay with that idea? So we want to remove the torment of choice. The no system. What are the loudest solicitations on your time? What is the easiest task and functions to do? So Rhonda, if you have everyone's email, I'll make sure that they get this form and the next one for the Sunday planning. So what are the loudest solicitations on your time? What is the easiest task or function to do? Here's where we should be spending our time. The most vital tasks and functions. Do you all agree that many times the loudest and the easiest are not the vital, right? So it's the squeaky wheel. Which one gets the grease? The squeaky wheel always gets the grease. The loudest client always gets our attention, whereas our repeat customer, our repeat client, the one that refers us business every year, do they ever hear from us? No. But the person who's calling to complain, oh, I didn't like this, I don't like this, why didn't you? They're getting all of our energy, and that's where we're getting depleted. And then here's the last one. What will I start saying no to? What are the things that from the loudest, easiest, and vital, what are you going to start saying no to? Here's a hint. Do not say no to vital tasks and functions. Okay? Now, you could start passing them off to someone else. Here's your no system. How will you say no in person? How will you say no in person? The way I say no in person, I don't know. I'll have to check with my wife and my son, and I'll get back to you. That's my face-to-face. Over email, the way I say no over email, you all heard. I just send it from my client care services, my client service specialist, right? From my dummy account, my alias account. Who can I designate to say no for me in my professional life and my personal life? In my personal life, it is my wife. Because for me to be here, anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So if I say yes to being here, I'm saying no to being with my wife, my son, and my family. So I have to ask, is my yes big enough to offset my no? You all understand me? There. So that's part of my family. In my professional life, I run everything in my professional life through one of my friends, Freemo. His name is Freeman. We call him Freemo, who is not in real estate. He's one of my accountability partners. In my professional life, he is the one that says no for me because he's unattached to the outcome from someone else, right? So for me, he cares more about me than he does about the other person in the business realm. So he's CC'd on almost all of my business emails. He does not do real estate. He's CC'd on the emails. And his first thing is he is my moat around my castle. He is the dragon. He's whatever you want it to be. He defends me in my time because he knows that I do the same for him in his business and professional and personal life. Right? So you all understand. So he's my no system. And now he doesn't just say no to everything. We usually talk once a day, right around lunchtime. He'll say, hey, I see we had these emails come in, and the reason he does it is because it works for him. He works for the county. He works for Jefferson County up in Birmingham. He is a true county worker where he just sits in his truck all day under the bridges. He inspects septic tanks and sewer lines, right? So a lot of the time is dead time for him. I decided to leverage that and his love for me. So that's what, yeah, so I say leverage. I didn't say use. You see the difference there, right? So he'll come in around lunchtime. He'll say, hey, Junior, did you do this, this, and this? Or what do we think about this? Is it important? And I'll say, yes, it is. Is it going to move the needle? No. He says, all right, that's a no on that. And then I have in my Outlook, I have the signatures set up. He said, that's a no? Okay, so mentally, he has a little notepad. That's a no. Boom. And I can tell about 30 minutes later, an email is being sent out with me CC'd on it with one of those 5 signatures that I said, no, it's either not worth my time or we'll get back to him, we'll try to fit him in or send some follow-up information. And this is a guy who is not on my payroll. He just loves me, right? We've been friends for almost 25 years. Right? So that's where I've decided who can say no for me professionally, because I can't have my wife say no for me professionally because she'll start letting her personal feelings interfere with my business. You all understand what I'm saying there? All right? So those are some things there. And then here's the Sunday planning. Your big goal. Number 1, big goal. Number 2, big goal. Number 3, miscellaneous, or we call this the devil's vortex. These are the things that will suck your time up if you are not careful. And then MVPs, I say we do not have to-do list. What are your most valuable priorities for the week? What are the most valuable priorities for your week? If only one thing is done all week, it should be number 1. If you do 2 or 3 before you do number 1, you need to go and look in the mirror and do a self-check. Was that really my highest priority? If it was, what kept me from doing that first? Because if number 1 does not get done, you have to figure out why. We have to observe, orient, decide, and act. OODA, correct? Because what happens is if 1 does not get done and 2 and 3 gets done, then we're going to come back and we're going to say, highest priority done. Even though I got 2 or 3 done, we're still going to have that little bit of anxiety inside of us, and we'll have that regret. And we'll start saying, man, I didn't make my prospecting calls. Well, you know, I did this and this, but you didn't make your prospecting calls. That's the way our mind works. We're always going to go back to what we didn't do as opposed to what we did. Right? So if I came through and if I made my prospecting calls, but I did not get my flyers sent out, if my highest priority was prospecting calls, and if I look at my calendar and I say, hey, I did my prospecting, I did this right here, I did my cardio, I made sure that I didn't get my MLS activity done, but I did write the Productivity Mastery CE course and got that sent in. Now I can come and see my highest priorities for the week got done. All the other stuff didn't, and then I can decide, or you can decide, if it goes back in next week or the next day, or if it just falls off, or you might delegate that to someone else. We're good? All right, and ladies, this is how you can get in contact with me or get in contact with my son on social media. On Facebook, it's Neil Oates Speak Train. On YouTube, it is Neil Oates. And then on Instagram, it's Mr. World Renowned. I went for Mr. Worldwide, but there's this guy named Pitbull. He already had that one, and I tried to pay him off, but I didn't have my pockets weren't deep enough yet. So that's how you can get in contact with me. any questions that you all have for me, if you have a question for me, Neil Oates Speak Train is the easiest way. You can go on there and just post, a question on there, or send a message through there, or Instagram. On this training here, depending on how good the video looks, if it made me look 10 pounds lighter, I'm going to post this video, and then I'll make sure that Rhonda gets the link, and you all will have access to this to go back and replay it. Well, you're going to have access to it either way. Even if the video didn't come out well, I'll make sure that I have some friends of mine work the editing and make me look good. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, ma'am. Yes, so there are 2 forms. However, I'm probably going to give you a lot more than 2, all right? Because there's a lot of stuff in here. So remember that there's a vital functions form. There's also a give up list that I have. What are you willing to give up in order to get what you want? So there are more than 2 forms. I'm going to send them all to Rhonda. She'll get those to you. Some of them we did not go over the form itself, but they're self-explanatory. And then you'll see on the bottom of most of the forms here, it would tell you how to use the form. Okay? For instance, like this says, block out chunks of time on your calendar now for those 3 MVPs. Protect them as sacred appointments. Block out time on your calendar for your exercise, family, spiritual, and social time now. So it's telling us, it will tell you how to do it, things that we didn't go over, but then you all know how to get in contact with me if you have follow-up questions. Okay? Anything else?
I have 2 comments.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that you're teaching your son problem-solving skills.
Yes.
Because there's so many people, youngsters these days, that don't have how do I get from point A to point B, or and then a lot of anxiety goes along with that. And also, so I have a friend that when I ask her where she wants to go out to eat, she'll say, I don't care, it doesn't matter, which would include all the restaurants in Orlando. So I need to narrow it down to 3, is what you're saying? Like,
So, no, so here's what I do with my wife. I ask, so when someone says it doesn't matter, I'll say chicken or fish.
Right.
That's where I'll start. That's like chicken or fish. And then I want them, so if they say it doesn't matter, my default, I know what my default is, Chili's. Well, I don't like it. Well, you should have made a decision. Well, anywhere but Chili's. Okay, what about Chili's to go? I'm like, wait, that's the same thing, right? But I'm trying to get them to really, it's always a solicitation to get someone to do what you want or what, right? And so for me, when it comes to food, I'm saying, what are you in the mood for? It doesn't matter. All right, do you want a sit down or do you want a to go, right? Do you want fancy? Do you want casual, right? And so it's no different than when we're setting our schedules. What day this week works best for you? Oh, well, morning or afternoon? We know this, right? Morning or afternoon? Afternoon. Wednesday or Friday? Friday. 1 or 3, right? And so we're going through, and sometimes you have to walk them along. Now, I don't say, what day this week works for you? Where do you want to eat? So I know, and so for me, I already have a pretty good idea of what I want. Now, I will let the other person decide which of the 3 that I want do they want to choose from, right? So what are you in the mood for? Fish, beef, or chicken? Oh, well, I don't want fish. Okay, boom. So I know all my seafood out. Okay, so chicken or beef, which one do you want? Chicken. Chili's or Applebee's? Everywhere has chicken. Right? So it's super easy. That's just in the food part of it. But just think about that. So I'm always asking the same thing that we're taking in our business, I use personally as well. Anything else? Oh, and the way that I started teaching my son decision making and just working through the problem solving is I just would give him the look. I live in silence, right? As a presenter, my favorite time is being silent. So whether I'm with a client, we're talking about real estate, or my son, he would ask me a question, and I'll look at him and I'll say, we aren't very good at being silent. And Daddy, can we do this? How can I do this? And he says, okay, I'll be back. I'll figure it out. Or one of the things that I love, one of the scripts that I use a lot is, you're smart enough, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Because if you tell anyone, you're smart enough, I'm sure you'll figure it out, even if that's with a problem. One of the things that many of my agents would come to me as a broker, they would come to me and say, hey, Neil, I want to do this, this, and this. Because the easy thing for them to do is ask someone else to be told what to do. So now they don't have to be accountable for the outcome because they didn't make the decision. They're doing what they were told to do, right? So I will come in and I will say, well, you know, you're smart enough, I'm sure you'll figure it out. And then they'll come back to me. I know I saw it coming. I should have warned you, Rhonda. Oh, she scared Rhonda so bad right there, and it was a beautiful thing, I tell you. So one of the things I will always say is I will either be silent or I will say, well, what do you think? You're smart enough, I'm sure you'll figure it out. And then come back to me with some solutions and I'll help you figure it out. But very rarely am I just giving anyone a solution from myself. While, especially if like someone like my son or my wife or someone that's close to me, because I know I'm not going to be here all the time, back to me and say, hey, I figured this out. So for my son, is it inconvenient for me to figure all this out and go and drop him off? Yes. But I couldn't be more happier with him at 11 years old having, wait, okay, so he got his phone and called Seth, who is his best friend, asked him to speak to his mom. Hey, Miss Linda, can I do this, this, and this? Yes, well, I'm here. So he explained everything to her. And so she was like, okay, yeah. And she didn't even speak to me, right? Yeah, we could do that. What time? 4 o'clock. Okay, boom, 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 boom. And then after he figured everything out, he says, Daddy, I've done this. Can you get me to Port St. Lucie Service Plaza? Yeah, it can be done. Right? But see, like that's one of the things where, and I'm challenged now that because I see him doing, now I know that he looks at me. If I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, then how can I sit here and tell him, well, hey, here's what you're supposed to do, but Daddy's going to go this route there. Anything else?
What type of prospecting are you using, right? According to your experience in the market right now?
So for me, how I prospect, now this is the Bible according to Neil. So the way I prospect is I get in front of as many people as possible. So networking is my prospecting. So I go to networking events consistently, but they are not the real estate networking events unless they're outside of my area. So I use Meetup a lot, like meetup.com, and I'm always going out because I believe that my personality and then my warmth when I get in front of people, that works for me. Right. So the other one is I will go to networking events in real estate outside of real estate. I mean, in real estate if they're outside of my area. So I'll drive 2 hours to Naples. I'll go to Fort Myers, Fort Lauderdale. Okay, Ron, I think we're done. Right? Yes.